So there's a proverb that says, no matter how far you've gone down the wrong road, turn back. And I think that's pretty applicable to how Louisiana's marijuana policy is now. We know I'm an unlikely proponent from this bill. I think if you would have asked anyone I went to high school with, I probably would have been voted the least likely to try and legalize marijuana in Louisiana. I was an Eagle Scout and valedictorian, all those things. I've never smoked marijuana in my life. But I am an engineer. I understand numbers. I understand the data. I can review it all, and I think from a policy perspective, this is the right way to go. Right now, we send hundreds of millions of dollars to drug dealers and cartels. To me, that's unconscionable for something that 68% of this or 67% of the population support. I would much rather have that be a safe, regulated product and have it taxed in order to support our law enforcement, our schools, and our roads. It's a question of balancing societal harms. I think there's no question that there are negative aspects to it. Just like there's negative aspects to alcohol or tobacco or sugar, it's same thing. But I think you have to balance what does more harm. Does the prohibition aspect of it, does it do more harm than legalizing it, taxing it, and making it safe and regulated? And I would say that when you weigh the data that's existed from other states, to me the evidence is clear. The reason to do it now as opposed to wait, I think there's always inertia is probably the strongest force in the legislature. Let's just wait. So besides the fact that we'd be sacrificing $100 to $200 million a year, I think that's a huge opportunity cost to say, let's put it off till next year. Well, that's a $200 million decision. So if we say we're going to wait till next year, that's $200 million. If we say we're going to wait 3 years, that's $600 million. I think I can't go to the people and say that that's worth it. I think that there's also the issue with the federal law. Under federal law, it protects us from competition on this, so we can develop a whole industry here, right? There's very few things in this world where that Louisiana could have an advantage and that we have a complete, no out-of-state competition on something. And if we wait until the federal government legalizes it, then we're going to be buying it all from California or these other states that have basically been first movers in legalizing it and developing an industry. So I would like to actually develop that industry here so that there's jobs that are here, and so all that value is developed here in Louisiana versus having it done all over the country and we just buy it. So we're just consumers like we are with lettuce or Walmart or something like that. Finally, I think one of the most important things is that marijuana is essentially prevalent in our communities. It's essentially everywhere. Our decision here today is not, are we going to prohibit the people of Louisiana from using marijuana? That's not our choice because they already are. It's already everywhere. The only choice we have today is, do we want the money to go to the black market to have people buy an unregulated product that could cause serious harm to them? Do we want them to interact with drug dealers in order to obtain it? And do you want all that money to flow to drug dealers and cartels? Or do you want it to form an industry here that's taxed, that supports the families in Louisiana with the people that work there, and provides a safe and regulated product for people to use? That's really our choice.
I would have to agree with Representative Nelson that we need to pass this bill. What I found is that the typical person that goes to jail for it are the ones who's selling a $20, $50 bag of marijuana. But I don't see the people who are bringing it over here on the ships, because none of the people in my district have these big ships, right? This system is so unfair. It's inequitable. It's disparity in the way we sentence people for marijuana versus the people who are bringing the marijuana in here. They get a little federal time. Many of the people who I represent get multiple offenses, and then that's another problem for them. One question I have for you. The public support. Let's talk about the public support. If we were to do a survey of the people in Louisiana, what would you think the vast majority of the people in Louisiana would say about legal? Because I put it on one of my surveys once. So what do you think? But that was only in my district. What do you think the people of the state would say?
Yeah, so they did a state, JMC Analytics did a poll, maybe a month ago, maybe a little bit more than a month ago, something like that. And it was 2/3 support, basically 67% of the state. And that was across Republicans, Democrats, evangelicals.
But it's not a partisan.
No, it's so 67% across the board supported it then. I would say that now people have been reading in the news every day about another state that legalized it. I'd imagine it probably goes up. I think that every day that happens that there's another, chances are, there's going to be another state probably before we're done debating this bill. There's probably going to be another state that legalizes it. Okay, and so every time they read that, it'll.
So we got 67% of the people of the state of Louisiana that elected all of us up here, right?
Yes.
And so we really want to do the will of the people, right? Not one organization or not, right?
Yes.
So if we wanted to do that, we would vote to move this bill favorably, right?
I believe
And
so.
at the proper time, I would love to do that.
Do you realize that it's going to raise the crime a little bit?
I think if you look at the data from other states, the data from other states doesn't show any significant increase in crime. So I can't tell you exactly what it would be here, but I would say that if you decriminalize simple possession of marijuana is one of the biggest, often charged crimes in Louisiana. So from the standpoint that that's no longer going to be a crime, I mean, obviously that rate will go down.
But to be honest with you, from my district, I haven't had any pushback. I've only had, conversations and emails that come through supporting this.
Fact that we know mental health cases are going to rise. We know that juvenile suicide rate is going to rise. So
I can tell you the harm from it is going to be significantly greater when it's illegal and they don't even know what's in it than if it's listed on the label.
So the polls that you reference, those same people took that poll that Donald Trump would be the president. So I don't necessarily believe in polls, but
For the record, Representative Fano, Donald Trump did receive 58% of the vote here. So this looks like another 9% of the Donald Trump folks that wanted marijuana.
Yeah, so Representative Fontenot, that means that marijuana is more popular than Donald Trump in Louisiana.
Representative Bryan.
And marijuana also is medicine for people. We're not even talking about that part. We've already made that part of our Louisiana law and recognized the medicinal benefits. We don't need to try to tell people in their own homes, you can't do this or we'll put you in jail. And if we're also just being honest about this drug and this war on drugs, it's actually greatly impacted the black and brown communities far more than my neighborhood and
I'll just point out that thousands of doctors every day tell their patients to take marijuana because it's going to make them healthier. So thousands. That doesn't happen with alcohol. It doesn't happen with tobacco. They tell them in the same conversation the exact opposite.
I don't know if we're prepared for that at this time. I really think that we have not thought this process forward. We have a problem with teens using marijuana. It's marijuana that drives up teen suicide. Tap your brakes and study this matter as opposed to wholesale giving in to what you consider to be 2/3 of the public wanted. Is $100 million worth the death of my child, my grandchild? Is it worth the death of yours when you?
One question: If we do nothing and this bill doesn't pass, are young people going to stop smoking marijuana?
I would pump the brakes. I would spend 2 to 3 years studying it because there are going to be things blow up on you that you have no idea. The cartels are coming, and there's going to be an education component when you start to marry this with the medical, and whenever you're going to put educators in positions that they're not ready, you really got to build that policy out. Your electricity grid in Baton Rouge is not ready for this bill to be passed. It is going to shut the grid down. You're going to have, so you have to bring the firefighters into the discussion, zoning, planning. There's going to be groundwater contamination. The crime piece is pretty easy. I think everybody agrees there'll be less marijuana possession arrests, but there will be significant other cartel-driven crime associated with this. And what it is actually the foreign cartels come in and they use the cover of a legalization in an island state to run all of their operations out of Louisiana. And they will literally co-opt all the licensed growers, and they will be working for the cartel.
I don't accept the premise that legalizing marijuana would create more organized crime than already exists because it's illegal. We're not even addressing the fact that it's like prohibition created organized crime. It never existed like it did until we had prohibition.
If this bill passes, will more young people abuse marijuana? And the answer to that is yes. So you vote to legalize this, young people are going to use those drugs in greater degrees. There's no question about it. Legalization means commercialization, and commercialization means advertising, and advertising means increased use. And I know there's thousands of doctors, you can get them to say anything. This is an addictive drug. Homelessness goes up, crime goes up, including violent crime. in mental illness, substance abuse goes up. That is what is going to happen if you vote to legalize marijuana in the state of Louisiana, and it's not worth $100 million, it's not worth $200 million.
When you talk about medical marijuana, there's raw marijuana, which is not medical marijuana, and then you have CBDs, which are derivatives of cannabis. That is medical marijuana, okay? This is talking about pot use, basically. What individuals are unaware when it comes to self-medicating is that the marijuana they consume does not have compounds that alleviate their pain or conditions. The marijuana they consume has many compounds that negatively alter their perceptions, which leads to worse conditions. There is a loss in those that are regular users of marijuana measured of 8 IQ points.
Does alcohol have a different correlation in some of these same?
Well, I don't have that data with me. I do have some data on that, but I would say this: I'm not an advocate of alcohol either.
I just want
I would
to
just assume that we eliminate alcohol use as well.
It absolutely is medicine, and I would be absolutely remiss if I didn't mention all of the veterans that have repeatedly contacted me to say the suicide rate amongst combat veterans suffering from PTSD dramatically goes down when they're prescribed this medicine. It saves lives.
Well, it's about 2.5% of all the cases that we represent are marijuana is either the simple possession of marijuana is either the single offense or the main offense for the arrest for the cases that we have. Every time that I see you, whatever committee I'm in front of, I'm either asking you for more money to pay for our underfunded system or the criminal justice system that we can pay for. This is that latter half. 2.5% reduction in our cases would mean 2.5% of the expenses that we wouldn't have to, or resources we wouldn't have to consume to operate our system.
The other things is there's at least, like I said, 100 million reasons to vote for this bill. That money can go a long way, especially in a poor state like Louisiana. We already serve as the FDA. We already have legal marijuana in Louisiana. So the fact that the federal government doesn't regulate it currently and just prohibits it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant because we already have medical marijuana. I also have very strict advertising requirements. It basically prohibits almost any advertising, and the goal of those, if they would have read the bill, they were in there pretty clearly. But the goal of those is to restrict that that connection to the underage people, and even to just in the public in general. Really, it'll have to be people who are looking for it that have to go seek it out. It's not going to be in the newspaper. It's not going to be sponsoring your T-ball team. So I would say there's no better way to hurt the cartels than to take away hundreds of millions of dollars they get every year from selling marijuana. All these other things are all conjecture. Hey, they may do other things. They may shift in other markets. At the end of the day, they will definitely lose hundreds of millions of dollars if we legalize it and let legitimate businesses sell it. That's what's happened everywhere else. So we can pretend like that, the cartels are all, they're all in favor of this bill and they're putting in green cards. It's not happening. It'll take the money from them and we'll give it to our police. It will give it to our schools and we'll give it to our roads. That's what we're going to do with it. Voting for this bill does not mean you support the use of marijuana. That's not the same thing. And a lot of what we heard is all confusing the idea of you support marijuana if you vote for this bill. It's absolutely not the case. What a vote for this bill does is to acknowledge that the benefit to society is greater to have it legal and have it taxed and have it regulated than it is to just have it be illegal and throw people in jail and fund cartels and fund the drug dealers. That's what your vote is saying. I've never used marijuana. I won't use it even if it's legalized. But I think that it's very, very clear that the benefits outweigh the harms in repealing the prohibition and in making it legal.
Representative Bakla, Representative Bryant, Representative Fontenot?
No.
No. Representative Gudo? No. Representative Jones?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Marcel?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Marino? Yes. Yes. Representative McKnight? Yes.
We got your yes down.
Representative Bakla? No. No. Representative Muscarello? Yes. Representative Nelson?
Yes.
Yes. Representative Seabaugh? No. Representative Villio? No. 6 yeas, 5 nays.
I'm gonna vote.
And Representative James?
Emphatic yes. Thank you, Representative Nelson.
Thank you, members.